Welcome, everybody, to the introductory episode of the PokeHaus podcast, the Pokemon VGC podcast, competitive Pokemon podcast in general, coming to you courtesy of the Game Haus. I am one of your glorious hosts, Eric Bartlett, and I'm joined with my boy Austin Jeffs. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Right. AKA Aegis Cave.
Young Aegis Cave. You already know.
Cave. All right, so for the podcast today, for our very first introductory episode, it should be a fun time. It might not be the cleanest, but we're just gonna roll with it. So for topics, I guess, do we want to give them like a rundown of what we're gonna talk about? Or
Well, first thing, let's talk about what the PokeHaus podcast is and the vision we have for it.
Right.
So the PokeHaus podcast is intended to be a competitive Pokemon podcast in general. Eric and I are both big VGC players. That is our bread and butter. So that is primarily what we're gonna be talking about. VGC is the official competitive Pokemon format as well. So obviously that's the one that's supported by TCPI, the Pokemon company, and that's the one that the most people around the world play. So that's the one we tend to focus on. But that said, we are Pokemon fans at heart. We are, through and through. We are purebred Pokemon fans. So competitive Pokemon news in general, even really like Pokemon news in general, stuff you're going to find here. We hope to educate people as well. For those looking to get into VGC, or if you're new to competitive Pokemon, or you've been playing a different competitive Pokemon format such as singles, we hope to help you as good as we can anyway get into the official competitive Pokemon format. So is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
I mean, basically, trying to cover competitive Pokemon as a whole. Obviously, it'll be more VGC focused, since that is the official competitive format. But we are going to be branching out. We'll have different segments of different interesting, stuff in general that we want to talk about the competitive Pokemon scene as a whole. But that's pretty much it. That's what we're going to do here. So for our first episode, we obviously introduced ourselves. Hi, how's it going? We're going to be talking. We have a very special guest for you today. We have Riley Factura, aka Gengar Boy, the recent 2018-2019 season Pokemon VGC Portland regional champion. We're going to talk to him about his tournament run, his team, and all this other stuff that should be a fun time. He should be joining us shortly. We'll be doing a Pokemon 101 segment that'll be sort of our, series dedicated to those that are probably getting into competitive Pokemon or VGC or stuff like that, and just sort of be giving some intro guides and tips and all that sort of stuff. Remember, we'd probably be talking about some metagame stuff, do some metagame analysis, give some hot takes.
Hot takes, baby.
The hot takes, because we got the hottest takes around. And you'll see later on. Maybe.
Oh, you already know. I'm excited.
We got the hot takes, and we're just going to be covering other competitive Pokemon news in general, and obviously general Pokemon news, which we have a bit to talk about. So, I guess we'll bring Riley in. I'll bring him into the call, and I mean, is there anything else we want to say before we get him on here?
No, I'm excited. Let's talk about Portland as a whole, because Portland was definitely an interesting tournament for sure.
Yeah, we definitely got to see. I think this is our first real taste of West Coast meta, if that's even a thing. Is there a West Coast meta? I know definitely the West Coast meta seems to be a little bit more interesting, because we got players like Matthew Greaves, whose team I really like, and one that's one of the most interesting teams to. Oh wait, he's back.
Oh! I hear crackling. I hear noises.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, there he is.
There he is.
Awesome. Glad to be on the podcast.
How's it going, everybody? We're going. It's going.
It's going. We're rolling.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here, man.
Okay, so without further ado, then, first of all, Riley, how does it feel going 7-0 with that schedule? Like tell us about your run, your experience of the tournament, and what it's like to be. I think this is your fourth regionals win, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, that's correct. This is my 4th regional win. It felt really awesome going 7-0. I was actually pretty surprised. I didn't expect to do super well because I felt like I wasn't as prepared as I normally am when I feel like I'm going to win a tournament. And I kind of just grabbed the team from the Zelda Challenge that won a week before. And I put my own spreads and stuff onto it. And I didn't really practice that week at all. And actually, that week before at the Zelda Challenge, I was pretty confident that I was going to bring Lunala Zern to the tournament. So it was kind of a big change. But it definitely feels really good.
Yeah.
It paid off for sure.
Yeah, with such minimal practice, just going 7-0. That's
and given your schedule too, that is something that also deserves a mention. You played some absolute killers in that tournament. I don't think you played a single scrub. I don't think you played one bad player in that whole set.
Like the strength,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
Just your strength of schedule, the fact that you went 7-0, and I want to say only a few of them came down to game 3, right? I think you only played 2 or 3 game sets. Is that correct?
Yeah, I played 3 out of the 7. Went to game 3. And then one of them, I was actually, round 7, both me and Pickle Sword were undefeated. So I wasn't trying to win that match. I was just trying to get information for Tap Cut. So I guess I didn't really care about that one.
Hey, we take those.
We do.
Yeah. The other one, I played Ryokon, and I should have won game 2, but I misplayed once, and it cost me the game. I was really upset during the match. Like, I was beating myself up. I'm pretty sure everyone sitting around me could see it. But yeah, I knew I could win game 3 immediately before team preview even happened. I took it, and then Angel took a game off me, and he's a good player.
Absolutely. So, what made you choose? So, for the viewers at home, the team you brought was Kyogre, Xerneas, Kartana, Tornadus, Incineroar, and Amoonguss. What were your thoughts bringing this archetype in this team? Like, obviously, you mentioned you didn't have much practice with it. Was this just a spur of the moment thing, or was this a team you had liked before? Like what were your thoughts bringing this team into the tournament?
I honestly, when I saw the Serena variant win the European Regional, I thought Tornadus was kind of cool and interesting. But I wasn't really a big fan of the archetype. I had prioritized Xerneas Groudon and Xerneas Lunala over Xerneas Kyogre before. And I liked the 2 restricted, but I just liked them on separate teams. I just thought there was too many Amoongus's and Kartanas and Ferrothorns. But I wanted to try it after it had won the Zelda tournament because it already won 2 big tournaments. I was like, might as well test it. And then it ended up being pretty good in practice. I felt like I was misplaying a lot. Obviously, I wasn't as winning as much as I was during that week before regionals, but I felt like I was losing more because of my misplays and not because of team matchups. So I also made a Google Doc, and I wanted to make sure that I beat really the 6 popular cores, which was the Xerneas Kyogre, Xerneas Groudon, Xerneas Lunala, Kyogre Duskmane, and then the Solgaleo Zygarde team was popping up on the ladder a lot. So I wanted to make sure I was beating that. And then the Kyogre Eviltal team that Justin won regionals with earlier in the season. That one, it wasn't as popular on the ladder, but I wanted to make sure that I could at least some way handle it, and which the team did. And then I felt like the team could beat all of those. And I think it had a slightly better favor, except for possibly the Kyogre Duskmane, depending on the variants. But I still felt like I could pull out some wins versus those. So it felt strong versus the current metagame right now.
Yeah, so we know this. This team, as you said, it recently, at least a variant of it, won the Frankfurt regional tournament, and This team's obviously been doing really well at like locals and been claiming results left and right. It became like a super popular team. Were you like sort of like when you chose this particular team, were you like sort of scared that the metagame would have adapted to beat it, or were you just confident in this team's matchups like all around? Like, were there any like specific like archetypes or like cores you think that people like would try to bring to try to beat this team, or just like matchups in general you were sort of on the fence about?
Not really. I don't think anyone was going to be prepared for it at this regional. Just because there's not much, I feel like that can really counter it. Maybe its best counter might be like Solgaleo Rayquaza, but nobody runs that.
Right.
And even if they did, then I was okay with like taking that loss because I wasn't going to play. I might play like one, and it would be a liability for them if they were to bring that, because that team would be just weak against almost a lot of other archetypes.
Right.
So it felt really strong, and even though it was popular, and it probably will still continue to be popular, it might not be as strong as from now on. Just because if you're going to play a mirror, it's just going to be 50-50s, and mirrors are not effective. It's not going to be favored in one side. It's just going to be. But I still think it's strong against most of the other popular cores right now.
And I'm tempted to agree with you. In fact, the question I was going to ask you, because I feel like you of all people would know this better than anybody, just because we see this team all the time nowadays. How do you think? Like, do you think the team is still good? Do you think the meta will adjust to this archetype? Like where do you think the meta is going now that this team has pretty much has pretty firmly established itself as like a really, really solid team? Like where do you think the meta is going after this? Does that make sense?
Yeah, the meta, I feel like people will still continue to use this team, and maybe a little bit more Solgaleo based teams or Duskmane based teams are going to show up. I'm not sure if everyone's realizing this, but Stack Attack, it's a very good Xerneas counter, but it just leaves you so open and to like opposing Kyogres and opposing Groudons, and it's just like it has a lot of positioning liabilities to where I don't think it's as effective as a Xerneas counter. And once people start realizing that Solgaleo and Duskmane are better counters just because they can stick around on the field longer, those team archetypes are going to start popping up. But again, it's just going to be a circle, and Solgaleo teams are going to be weak to Eviltal teams and Lunala teams. So I feel like it's just right now there's just so many cores that eventually, we only have about 2 months left of at least this metagame. But I think by the end of it, the cores are just going to be more established into fewer ones. Like maybe the Zygarde Solgaleo might die off, and I could see the Solgaleo with like Rayquaza doing a little bit better. And then I think the Groudon Xerneas core is probably not optimal. I feel like the Lunala and the Kyogre ones are better now. So I could see those dying off a little bit, but it really depends on what people want to use. I personally just don't think it's as great as the other ones. But it just depends on what everyone else wants. and then I've never been a fan of Eviltal, so I don't think it's that great. I think it's kind of like a B tier restricted. But again, like some people just want to use it, want to continue using it. So it honestly just really depends on everyone else.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I see Aegis and I are we're kind of grinning at each other, just like, interesting. Because we've been such big fans of Eviltal, and it's just like I don't know, we're kind of thinking it's a meta call at the same time, but it's interesting to see that maybe thinking that Eviltal is maybe not a meta call, or just like trying to see where the meta game's going.
If there's any opinion that I trust in this call, it's probably going to be yours, Riley. So it hurts me a little bit to see that my baby is not that good in the meta, but I don't know.
Well,
I think you could absolutely be right as well.
Well, to be honest, like let's say Kyogre and Lunala becomes super popular because it did get second at the regional, then Eviltal will be really good.
Yeah.
And Eviltal is also really good against the Solgaleo Zygarde. But I feel like there's just too many Xerneases around to where that it can't really thrive right now. So it just depends on who you face at regionals or internats.
That's fair.
And like your local tournaments, like Eviltal could be really good. Like if everyone in Southern California were to run these Lunala Kyogre or Solgaleo Zygarde, I would run Eviltal at these tournaments.
Yeah.
But most people run Xerneas at my locals, so.
Yeah, well, I guess.
I think that's probably the story of most locals, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I definitely am one of those people.
Like, there's definitely a reason. Is it number 1 or number 2? Kyogre and Xerneas are always doing this, kind of always fighting for that top spot. But
Xerneas, I think Kyogre still has the edge in usage, maybe, but I know Xerneas is.
Xerneas overtook it for a while.
No. Xerneas is on top, according to
Is it? Okay.
Xerneas is on top, so if you have a type disadvantage against that Pokemon, you're definitely
it's looking rough.
It's definitely going to be a hard life. So I guess to sort of transition, talking about this Lunala Kyogre archetype, let's take some time to break down that insane final set. So going into that set, did you play any other teams like similar to that during like your Swiss run, like any like Lunala Kyogre teams? Because I think Angel and Lou were the only ones running that team in top 32. I don't know if that's 100% accurate. Let me check real quick.
They weren't running the same version of it, were they?
No.
I think they both had different versions of it.
Yeah, slightly different versions. But like, have you played anything like that with this team in testing before? Like, just sort of break down like what your thoughts on like the matchup going into finals were.
Oh, in testing before the regionals, I wasn't facing it that much. I mean, I think I did see it win like maybe an MSS or two on VGC stats, but I didn't really see it on the ladder. So I was like, I'm going to focus on the other 6 main cores to beat those instead of this one. And then when I played Angel at the regional, his Lunala Kyogre was a little bit different because his Lunala had Trick Room, and his Kyogre was a little bit slower. And then Lou's was a Tailwind Lunala with Roar. So I couldn't really set up Geomancy as much as I wanted to versus Lou, where it was a little bit easier versus Angel. It kind of played like a slightly different play style. And then I also, the night before Top Cut, I prepped versus everyone. And when I had prepped versus Lou, I didn't think his Lunala was going to be so bulky because I think I heard it only had like 20 special attack, but that was after the tournament. So when I was doing calcs and practicing on Showdown versus his team, I was able to KO the Lunala a lot faster. And so if you saw the set in game 1, I wasn't able to take it down with a knockoff plus Moonblast, which really hurt. And then he like roosted off most of the damage, and he also got a crit on my Kartana, so that he was able to take that down early.
Yeah, that helps a little bit. Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't really go as planned, so I had to deviate from the plan. Like I wasn't gonna bring Tornadus in all 3 matches. I had planned to bring Kartana, Xerneas, Amoonguss, and Kyogre, and then switch off Amoonguss for Incineroar based on what I saw from game. And then when I lost game 1, I was just like, dude, I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm going to lose this, but I was like, I think I'll just maybe deviate a little bit and try Tornadus, and it definitely helped.
It certainly ended up being the call. Yeah, it definitely worked out. Did you know the Lunala had Roar? Did that come as a surprise to you when you actually played it?
I knew it had Roar when I was watching Top Cut that same day, but I didn't know it had Roar the night before. So that's why my game plan was like was different. Like everything ended up differently.
Yeah, it's interesting that you decided to bring because like obviously like we all know what Xerneas does, but like it seems like in the matchup like obviously like you didn't know it had Roar like I guess like you did know before the matchup, but like it's interesting that like you decided to bring Xerneas first because it seems like Lou's team like considering all it's got it seems like a pretty good like anti Xerneas sort of team, and I guess the decision to bring I guess as you said the decision to bring Tornadus after all was what was ended up being the call.
Yeah. So I figured after game 1, I decided game 2 I was going to take it on the Coco and not set up a Xerneas and just use Xerneas and Cart to take down Coco while Tornadus could come in, because then it could outspeed everything and not really get KO'd by the electric type moves.
Is there any plays you regret from your finals? Is there any plays you wish you would have made differently?
Oh yeah, I definitely misplayed. I for sure misplayed. The turn before I Hurricane, I should have tailwinded that turn and attacked, because even if he had went for Kyogre, then my Tornadus would have been either matched tailwinds with him, or he would have KO'd Kyogre. My Tornadus would have at least been its sash would have been broken or a moon, but then I would have had Tailwind and my Xerneas would have came in for free and I could Dazzle and Hurricane the following turn. And then there's nothing he could really do.
So you did have Xerneas in the back for game 3.
This is game 3 we're talking about, right?
Yeah, because I don't think I don't think you revealed Xerneas during that game, right? I think you had.
I don't think you had to, because you Hurricane for the
right.
card.
I think he forfeited probably before I.
Yeah.
Like after the Hurricane confusion was over, but I had Xerneas in the back.
Yeah. So wait, just like I know, Aegis and I were kind of talking about this, but like last night it was like we were kind of trying to decide was the Hurricane confusion like as game deciding as like is as because like obviously like it sealed it puts a nice bow on everything. It's like now I don't have to worry about Kartana, but like
which literally won the game.
I mean,
by itself, if it could have.
Actually, it kind of did, considering that it had a +1 and it also had Smart Strike. So if Xerneas was in the back, though, you did have one more turn of Tailwind, right?
No, I don't think Tailwind was up at that point.
Yeah,
I think it was Hurricane plus Protect was the play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hurricane plus Protect was the play, but I would have set up Tailwind. Okay, so if I had another play to do, I would have went for the double Protect with Kyogre, and then set up my own Tailwind.
Yeah.
And then I just thought that I had 45 seconds, and I think that play probably was better. But I was also thinking that let's say I did get the double Protect and I got off Tailwind, right? The following turn, I would have been forced to Water Spout Dazzling Gleam. Because his Kyogre or his Kartana was at full health, so I needed to KO it after the Sash. And then I would have had to avoid a Thunder Paralysis or even crit, because if I crit his Kyogre or if his Kartana, it didn't matter. But if he crit my Kyogre with Thunder, it would have one-hit KO'd it, and then I would have lost the game there. The math, in the end, plays in favor of the double Protect over the Hurricane. But I literally I was thinking too much, and I was just like, dude, I see a way to win here, so let me click it.
Yeah, it's like you gotta go for it, I guess, yeah.
Every now and then, Pokemon lets you do that. That's why it's a great game.
Yeah, it does. I felt bad. I really did. Like when that happened, like, I put my hand out, I was like, dude, Lou, like, I feel really bad. Like, that was my only out. Dude, I'm so sorry. And he was good. He was a good sport about it. He kind of laughed. He was like, this is what I get for not going to church this morning. But Sunday. So, yeah, he was cool. And, even though I do feel bad and I feel bittersweet, there were so many times in my life where I've been knocked out of a crucial win because of hacks. So
we've all been there.
Absolutely. This is the game we play. You know, absolutely nobody can fault you for going for what your win con is, right? If your win con is a Hurricane Confusion, that's what you got to do. You know.
Yeah, that's correct.
We do in fact take those.
We at the end of the day, we do in fact take those.
Well,
do you have any more questions for our friend Riley here?
I mean, I guess, so after this regional win, obviously that adds 200 to your championship point total. Where do you currently stand?
If I looked correctly, I think I'm in 7th place for the Australian stuff.
Oh, so, okay, yeah.
But I'm not going to the Brazil tournament, so I'm most likely people are going to surpass me there. But I mean, it's okay. I don't mind missing it.
I mean, you seem to be doing pretty well for yourself right now in the season.
Yeah.
I saw this tweet from Gavin Michaels that says Riley has not lost a 2019 Sun Series tournament, and I was just like, really? Like, like locals too? Like, is it like? Can you verify this statement?
Yeah, I've won all the locals I've attended. It's only 3 though. I've only went to 2 premier challenges in the mid-season.
Oh, I mean, but that's still
that's crazy. That's awesome.
That's still 310 CP total now.
That's 310 more than I got.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, it's pretty nice to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you seem to be doing pretty well for yourself. I noticed how like in final, Gabby asked you a bit about like your sort of like I guess affinity for the GS Cup formats, because I think did you win 2 regionals back in 2016 or?
Yeah, that's correct. I did. I love the GS Cup. I don't know, for some reason I'm really good at this.
It seems like it.
And
2017 and 2018, they're really fun. Like I love both those formats, but I was just not good at it. I'm just really good at GS Cup, like 2016 and 19. Like these are my favorites.
Yeah, because I knew like you sort of took a break like for a couple of years, it seems, and I guess like this season has sort of been like your return to form.
Yeah, I'm not really looking forward to Moon Series because I think the Z moves are going to be forcing more 50-50s with whether the opponent protects or not, which kind of sucks. But I think the one at the end, at Ultra, I think it's called, that one will be a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's been a lot of mixed feelings about Moon Series, but I think everybody is definitely excited for Ultra Series, and yeah, I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be a cool like transition to see.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Are you going to run the same archetype in Moon Series? Like what's your imagined archetype that you think you're going to play in Moon Series?
Yeah, I'll probably continue to still test this. I'm not really sure. I haven't like laddered or anything, so I don't really know what Z moves are gonna change the metagame. I just know that it's gonna be more 50-50s with whether they protect or not. So I don't think it should change too much. And then there's probably like, I don't know, some random like steel or poison types that are gonna affect Xerneas, or poison like random Z moves that are gonna affect Xerneas. Mm-hmm. So that's not gonna be fun. But I still think Xerneas is gonna be probably the best, alongside Kyogre as a second. What are you guys thinking?
I don't know. It's just I've been sort of, because I thought like the sort of Zern Ogre archetype was gonna be good just in the fact that it was pretty decent back in 2016 when Justin Karras top cut Worlds with it. I was sort of I thought everybody was like thinking like, oh no, Zern Ogre is not gonna be great this season because you don't have stuff like Mega Salamence, you don't have stuff like I mean, I guess you don't really have a lot of good support against stuff like like you said, Kartana, Moongus, Ferrothorn, but like it's I mean, you can't beat the tier list, I guess. Like if you just put the 2 best mons on the team, like they probably don't have the best synergy together, but but just them two just being the best restricted mons in the format just naturally work together. I don't know how it's going to translate later on. It could either get better or worse. But I still think, yeah, these two can definitely work together right now.
That was kind of my impression of it too. I never liked Xerneas Ogre as an archetype just because I don't feel like you said, I don't feel like they have perfect synergy together, but they're literally such good mons, and they're both so capable of winning the game just automatically by themselves if you position them correctly, that it almost makes sense purely because of just the sheer quality of mon that they are. Like, obviously there's other good mons that work better with Kyogre or work better with Xerneas, at least in my opinion, but none of them even touch just the sheer brokenness of a Kyogre or a Xerneas. You just can't beat those two mons. Those two mons are by far the best at what they do. So, do I think this will continue into Moon Series? I have no idea. I think Moon Series is going to be a trip for sure, but
Yeah, definitely will. I think you guys explained it pretty perfectly, though, like the Kyogre Xerneas core.
Well, Riley, it's been a pleasure talking to you, but before we wrap this segment up, what just hot take to the rest of Sun Series? We have about 2 months of this format left.
Just about, yeah.
What do you think is the hot meta call going into these next 2 months?
The hot meta call.
The hot meta call. The hot takes.
The hot takes. Hot takes.
Hang on, let me get ready to type this.
I haven't really thought about that.
Well, now's the time.
Now's the time. Are there any particular Pokemon that you think are really underrated right now that you think deserve more of a chance to do what they do? Does that make sense?
Or just any archetypes that you've been thinking about trying out that you think have potential? Just any sort of prediction you've got, we'll take them.
I don't know about prediction. I think everything that's good is already revealed. I don't think there's going to be any really surprise mons. I already thought Solgaleo was pretty decent, but it's already popular now due to that Zygarde team. I could see it winning more tournaments, maybe like a Solgaleo Kyogre type of core. And then I think the Lunala Kyogre, the one that was that got second with Lu, and then the Angel use will pop up a little bit more. I like that core, and that was pretty new to that tournament and new to the metagame, I feel like. But I mean, looking out at all the other restricteds and what's legal, I don't see much that's really good. Zekrom doesn't really look that good. Mewtwo kind of doesn't look good. What's here is what's been winning tournaments is probably what's going to continue winning tournaments. So I guess that's my
absolutely fair. Yep. Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Well, thanks, Riley. We had a blast talking to you. Thanks for doing this podcast with us. And
I had a blast being here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, here's to another regionals win in your future. Yeah. Here's
course.
To number 5.
And I guess another World Championship run now that we're back in GS Cup, huh?
Yes, sir.
I gotta get to that 5.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me again.
Hey, take care, brother.
Hey, thanks for being here, man.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right, see ya. All right.
How was that, folks?
That was a good interview. I really liked. Yeah.
Your 2019 Portland Regional Championship
Riley Factura.
Riley Factura, everybody.
Finalist. He won the tournament.
Right. I couldn't think of I couldn't think of the word champion for some reason.
He definitely technically was a finalist, but
technically he was a finalist. That is correct.
He did ascend that title, I guess. He definitely has the brick that says champion.
He definitely, yeah.
Add that to the collection. So, I don't know if there's anything else we want to talk about from Portland, or do we want to just move on to metagame talk in general, or do we want to just like what are we thinking?
We certainly could talk about Portland. I thought it was interesting that I thought it was interesting that Riley mentioned that it seems like the meta is somewhat set in stone because like as much as you kind of want there to be some new exciting stuff going on, I think he's right. I think it's really hard to. It is hard for me to imagine that something new and fancy is going to shake the metagame completely, right? It's pretty obvious that Kyogre and Xerneas, like those 2 months
Undisputed
specifically,
top two. Yeah.
undisputed top two, you cannot beat those things. Those mons are, bar none, the best restricted. Probably broken. And everything else that happens to work well together, right? We've discovered Groudon Xerneas, we've discovered Lunala Xerneas, we've discovered, like Ho-Oh Xerneas, Zygarde Solgaleo. Like I feel like we have discovered most of the possible pairings that really stand a chance in the format. That said, though, Portland does seem to suggest, at least, that we are on the cusp of at least a little bit of innovation, right? We've seen Lou's Lunala Ogre team, which previous to Portland was not a super, super common archetype. I've seen it around a little bit. I've used it a little bit myself. But we are seeing that is an archetype that is at least developing, if nothing else. Where we see Terry's crazy Ho-Oh Zygarde
Ho-Oh team.
Like,
oh my
that team is absolute flames.
It is insane. Okay, how are you gonna call it flames when you've been talking smack on my boy Ho-Oh?
Okay, look, I still don't approve of Ho-Oh, but the fact that somebody made Ho-Oh Zygarde as an archetype not only work, but he took it to third of a regional championships, which you can't help but respect that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as much as I didn't want to believe it, I feel like Riley he's on to something because, like, I don't know if we could call it early anymore. Like, we're kind of like halfway through Sun Series now because what did we start in, like, this September, like right after Worlds? Like,
I think it was before. Yeah, when was Worlds? Worlds was August.
August. First regional was the middle of September. So yeah, we're pretty much like halfway done with Sun Series already. And like, I'm scrolling through top 32 here, the standings and teams for top 32, and I'm seeing a lot of the same like stuff that we've seen take tournaments like or just be relevant in the meta. Like, you're always going to see like Incineroar. You're always going to see Tapu Fini. Weirdly, we have not seen a lot of Bulu, but I don't know. I feel like that's something that could make
weirdly.
I mean, Bulu seems to get the cold shoulder until like 2 months until the format ends, and then just like, guys, Bulu's good. And then,
guys,
like,
Bulu's good. I swear.
And then some guy like wins a regional from it, and then everybody starts freaking out. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of the same stuff. I definitely think a lot of the regional restricted pairs have been sort of experimented with and brought to light. But I mean, there's you can't say. I guess you can't say that there's no like development to be had. Just because we see the same stuff all the time. Like, Pokemon gets a bad rap usually because, like, oh, we just see the same teams every single time. It's like, well, it's not exactly true because, we could see the same type of team have a bunch of, like, ridiculously hot techs on it. Like, we were watching the Swiss games for Portland, the Psych Up Finny.
The Psych Up Finny, the red card, Whirlwind, Haze, Crobat. Yeah, no Tailwind, no Super Fang, none of that.
Yeah. So, like, you could just see a bunch of these common Pokemon. Like, I remember Tapu Koko is probably a big one, too, because we saw Luz was actually a physical variant of Tapu Koko. And we've normally seen Tapu Koko up to this point, unless your name is Jamie Boyd, have seen Tapu Kokos that are mainly special attackers. And, Wild Charge is definitely a unique adjustment for this format, just because, it's not it's comparable to Max Special Attack Thunder in base power. But
in terms of power, they're fairly similar. They just play differently, right? Like, on the one hand, you need Rain for Thunder to really, or at least you need to be playing a Kyogre matchup that is to really get value out of Thunder. And then on the other hand, you have Wild Charge, which is more consistently useful in other matchups, but then you have to deal with stuff like Intimidate from Incineroar, things that are much physically bulkier. Like somehow Wild Charge Kogo manages to be even more than useless versus opposing Groudon, whereas at least special variants have, like Grass Knot, or I guess the more common one is probably like Nature's Madness, which physical ones can run too. But yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Because on the one hand, you do have a lot of the same archetypes filling out the metagame, right?
Yeah.
You're going to see Kyogre Xerneas. You're going to see Groudon Xerneas. You're going to see Lunala Xerneas. But I would be highly skeptical of a claim that said meta is done evolving. Because even since Portland has ended, I feel like we've seen a few meta shifts, at least a little bit, right? I feel like Crobat, the Pokemon, people are finally starting to get hip to that Pokemon, because that is, I feel like, one of the very, very few non-restricted Pokemons that is just a solid, consistent, pure Xerneas check. Like, a Xerneas check that also happens to actually do something when there's not a Xerneas on the field. Like,
yeah. I definitely been noticing the influx of Crobat as well, and a lot of people were playing Crobat at the beginning of 2016, and I guess Crobat sort of just fell off like after, since this format has just been Xerneas like consistently. Like Crobat is by no means a hard counter, because as we've seen, there's like
there are no hard counters.
Yeah, there are no hard counters. You not hard counter. Yes, but like Crobat is one of those Pokemon that can just immediately shut it down, whether it be through Taunt, Haze, like
Tailwind, or apparently Whirlwind and Red Card as well.
Red Card, I don't know. Like, it's just one of those Pokemon that, like, if you have it on your team, Xerneas is infinitely easier to deal with. So I definitely think we'll be seeing a lot more Crobat. As for like format staples, we'll keep seeing stuff like Incineroar, Finny, Kartana, Ludicolo, Venusaur, like Stakataka. I thought it was interesting how Riley was talking about Stakataka not being as good as people think it is.
I tend to agree with him. Yeah. I've never been a fan of Stakataka myself as a Pokemon. He's right that it's a good Xerneas check, which the more you have of those on your team, the better, right? Like, just in general, if you don't have enough Xerneas checks, you don't have a good team. Like, there's a lot of value I think you can get out of the Pokemon, but he's totally right when he said it's a liability against a lot of just common stuff, right? If you're playing a Kyogre, the only thing the Staka can do versus Kyogre is click Wide Guard until it dies. And a lot of Kyogres are running Scald now. A lot of Kyogres are slower anyway, so if you want to somehow try to like fake out plus Trick Room in front of the Kyogre and then weaken it with something, you're going to find out potentially that the Kyogre is even slower than whatever your partner Mon was next to the Stakataka. Like, as a Mon, I think it's okay. I think it has its value and such, but I think he's right. I think it's becoming increasingly difficult to justify. We've got Groudon in the meta now, whereas it's been fairly common for a while now, but it was not always. Like at Stakataka's peak, Groudon was not super present. We're starting to see like Zygarde and stuff now. In general, just things that can hit it really hard. Like Lunala can take chunks off that thing, potentially reverse its Trick Room. We're seeing Cart everywhere with Sacred Sword, Kartana. I should use the full.
Wait, we could abbreviate it afterwards. Sorry, yeah.
But even stuff like Toxicroak, even there's just so many things in the format that Stakataka has to contend with that very rarely do you see it in team preview and go, oh no, there's a Stakataka. What do I do? Right?
Yeah, it's just Stakataka is like the fact that it's also a rock type makes it so much harder to use, and I think it is definitely like a liability in some scenarios. And like people talk about like Pokemon having like 4 move syndromes. Like, wow, there's so many moves you can put on this Pokemon. I feel like Stack Attack has 4 move syndrome in the fact that you can't accommodate Wide Guard and Protect onto the same set effectively. Because like Wide Guard is an amazing move in this format, but it's so not really that used because like Stack Attack is one of the most common uses of it, right? But people often forgo Wide Guard just for Protect because like Stack Attack needs to be able to protect itself because even though it can take physical hits from anything that isn't a ground type attacker, it dies to like there's so many common types it just melts to like Kyogre water attacks. You have even like even ground ground type attacks it just gets O code, fighting type attacks it just erased from the field. So like yeah, Stack Attack like it's either like really good or it's just a liability. Like it could either be like either one of the two.
Right, and I feel like Wide Guard is almost a lot of what it contributes as well, because obviously it's contributing to your trigger mode. Obviously it's a Xerneas answer. It has its defined roles, but when it's not doing that, right, when you're not relying on your trigger mode, but you still need your Xerneas answer, all you're doing is you're throwing out literally the slowest Pokemon in the entire game to just sink all of it, at least like the speed momentum, if that makes sense. Stack Attack just becomes this black hole of like, okay, no matter what you do to this thing, it will always be slower unless you want to set Trick Room, in which case, okay, well, there's Amoonguss. Hi, Amoonguss. Like, go and spore my whole team to death.
Yeah, just go ahead and put everything to sleep.
just go and spore every single Mon.
Yeah.
The Wide Guard thing is an interesting point, too, because I agree that it's, I think, a fantastic move in the meta, but there's so many other moves you need as well, right? Like where do you put Wide Guard in the current meta? Because like the other common user of it would be, I think, Lunala, right?
Solgaleo too.
Solgaleo's a possibility. Solgaleo probably has it if you see one, but I feel like you don't even see that many Solgaleos anymore. But as many teams and Mons that would appreciate having Wide Guard, there's just so few move slots for it. Like, I love the Stack Attack example, because I don't feel like Stack Attack even has 4 move slot syndrome that badly. Like, you can really get...
It's just that one move that it's missing.
Right.
Yeah, because it can't run... It usually doesn't run Wide Guard and Protect.
It can, but then you have to... Okay, do I drop Rock Slide? Like, obviously you can't drop Gyro Ball.
Yeah.
Like, if you drop Trick Room, you're just being silly. Like... Okay, you drop Protect, but then literally anything with Earth Power, Kartana Sacred Sword,
Stomping Tantrum from
Stomping Tantrum, right.
All right. Well, I guess if we want to wrap up our metagame talk, let's propose a hot take for the meta.
A hot take. Is it that time? Time?
It's to cap off our metagame discussion so we can move on into some other stuff. Hot take, go right now. Just one hot take.
Well, Wide Guard was actually going to be mine. I'm going to generalize this into control mechanisms in general. I think of things like Disable. Like we've seen triple Fake Out, so you know Fake Out is good, right?
Yeah.
But things like Fake Out, Disable, Prankster Encore. Really all that kind of stuff. Anything that can shut down the opponent's like main options, I think is slightly underexplored at the moment. Purely because if you think about things like what does Kyogre do to you if it's, say, a Choice Scarf Kyogre, right? If you disable Water Spout, for example, that thing is useless. You've taken the biggest, most destructive Pokemon on the field and made it completely useless. Now, obviously, we're assuming this is either like a Choice Scarf variant or you've like weakened it and then you've disabled Origin Pulse or whatever. But I think in general, if you can Encore there, restrict it into Protect, or you can, you can like snarl them a bunch of times. I feel like just really controlling the board state in general with sort of tricky moves like that is at least something to be explored, just because of how much momentum that can give you over the course of even a single turn.
Yeah, I know how much you've talked. How about you talk about that disable Yveltal?
I knew he'd say it. I knew he'd talk about it.
Well, that's a good transition into my hot take.
Fire away.
I know Riley was talking a lot of smack about Yveltal, but I think it's still good. I think it's still really good.
I think I agree.
Especially for the upcoming Roanoke regionals. East Coast meta is very Lunala. Very, very Lunala. They love their Lunalas up here in the East Coast meta. And I've been seeing a lot of teams with, like, the Lunala Kyogre teams, Lunala Xerneas teams, and, like, even though they got Xerneas, like, other than Xerneas, like, what do you do against Yveltal? Like, one of your biggest restricted mons and attackers in Lunala is just completely just, like, shut down by this Yveltal. And I think people have been, I'm not going to say people have been forgetting how good of a move knockoff is, because obviously Incineroar, LOL, but, like, you have the strongest knockoff in the game, and the only thing that's standing in the way of it is Xerneas, which is easy to deal with. But there are ways of dealing with Xerneas, and it feels like that's, like, the only thing that's holding Yveltal back. Because, like, as we were talking about before the podcast, like, we were talking about Yveltal, just literally just knock off, that's literally the sound it makes when it hits that. Literally the sound it makes.
Groudon's choice band drops to the ground, Kyogre's scarf, all that stuff.
It just, and the HP bar drops. It just goes. Yeah, I think Yveltal's still amazing, and I think in a meta that's seeing more popularity and stuff like Zygarde, boosting sweepers like Zygarde, Groudon, Foul Play is going to be amazing, and then obviously the restricted mons that Yveltal does super well against, like Solgaleo is getting more popular. Dustmane is probably going to come back a bit, and obviously Lunala is up there. So my hot take goes.
Yeah, I think the only problem with Yveltal as a mon, or at least like is the existence of Xerneas. Really, the fact that you can roar Xerneas, that thing is still a problem. You can spore Xerneas, that thing will wake up eventually. You can clear smog it, you can snarl it. Xerneas is and always will be, like, no matter how hard you prepare for that thing, it'll always be a problem, right?
Yeah.
And having one of your most important Pokemon, right? You have two restricteds, and you're dedicating one of them to a slot that is weak to Xerneas. That in and of itself is a massive liability. That said, however, ignoring that single Pokemon, ignoring literally Xerneas, Yveltal is amazing everywhere else. I think it's, personally, I'm of the opinion that it's one of the best mons in the format. If you can literally just handle the Xerneas problem, which is, I think, always the number one goal of any Yveltal team, is just to deal with Xerneas. But if you can do that, you have an absolute, like, there's so many games where I'll just send out Yveltal plus whatever turn one, and then Yveltal will get 4 kills. It will just, because you can't kill that thing, you can't switch into that thing. Like you said, knockoff. You can just knock off every item. Even Xerneas doesn't really want to come into that, because you can knock off the power herb. Like a lot of people are running. You would know a little bit about that, wouldn't you?
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All right. Well, I guess transitioning into our next segment, you want to talk about a bit Pokemon 101? I guess we'll talk.
Yes, sir. How are we on time, by the way?
It's like 4 now, so we've been going for about an hour. So I guess we can kind of keep this brief, as we can sort of rapid fire through the rest of our segments here. Not too quickly, of course, but I guess we can keep the Pokemon 101 segment a little bit more focused this time.
We'll give it a shot.
Yeah. All right. So for this week, our topic was still kind of is getting into VGC and competitive Pokemon as in general, and I think for this little mini segment of it, we could focus on, like, where you should go to start getting into it.
Right. This week's Pokemon 101 is intended for those who either have no competitive Pokemon experience whatsoever, or are used to formats like, say, Smogon singles, or even Smogon doubles. VGC is a very different, purely just by the way it's played. It's a very, very different competitive format than most other Pokemon competitive scenes. So our goal this week was to hopefully help for those who are interested in getting to VGC, provide some of the resources you need to learn, talk about some of the differences between singles and doubles. Like in general, if you're trying to get into VGC and you don't know how to do that, VGC classically has this very big barrier to entry, if you will, for new players. So that barrier to entry is what we hope to dissolve at least a little bit with this segment.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess when people ask me, like, if I see people around on, like, forums and stuff like that, just ask about, like, well, what do I want to, like, I'm really interested in getting into VGC. Like, what should I do to try to get into VGC? And I always respond to these people. I always respond just to start, just jump right into it. And just, don't be afraid to, just queue up a game on the ladder. Just see, like, just get a feel for what this current, because, like, the VGC format changes every single year. And it's a little bit different from like something like Smog on Singles, which like only updates like tier lists like very minimally every so often, and usually rarely do these formats get a big overhaul until like the next generation of games comes out. So usually when I see people that are asking about VGC advice, I definitely just say to just hop right into games. Definitely watch tournaments. There's tournament streams all the time, whether or not you can catch them live or you can always check VODs. There are a lot of places that are the Twitch channels that they're streamed on that usually just keep the VODs up so you can watch them. Like, for example, Nugget Bridge just streamed the recent Portland Regional Championships. The Pokemon VGC Twitch channel, the official Pokemon channel, also, they stream major tournaments, and they'll usually have the entire tournament replays just so you can watch. And I'm not saying like you have to watch every single game, but like you watch like watching the pros battle it out and just seeing like what that high level play looks like is definitely important to sort of get you in the mindset of thinking like, okay, these are the strategies that I want to use, or like the plays that I should be making, or like what. And also listen to the commentators too. The commentators, will also give like some insight and sort of explain what's happening in the game at the same time. And also, just going beyond that, like there are a ton of different resources there that you can use to, sort of find, team reports, usage stats, just what Pokemon are doing what in the current metagame, and sort of getting an idea of what teams look like and sort of like what Pokemon work well together. Of course, there are the big ones. There are VGC stats. There's Pikalytics. There's the Battle Spot, Pokemon Global Link usage stats.
Trainer Tower, if we haven't mentioned it yet.
And also Twitter at thegamehaus.com/Pokemon. Well, if you just want general tournament coverage and all that other stuff. But yeah,
listen to our podcast.
Listen to the podcast. But yeah, the resources are out there. My advice to anyone that's just getting in is to just jump right in, just start playing games, and just sort of get a feel for what the game's all about. Like that's honestly all I can offer.
Right, absolutely. This, of all the times in Pokemon history to ever get into VGC, this is the best time. We've got stats, we've got team building groups, we've got Discord servers, we've got tournament streams, we've got tournaments that you can play in, like smaller tournaments, like even free to enter tournaments where if you just need to get your feet wet, you just need to figure out how doubles or VGC or even BO3 works. Now's the time. Now is absolutely the time to learn. So, really, the main thing I would suggest to a newcomer is, like you said, just dive right into it. You're gonna have to scrape your knees a little bit, trying to figure out how how the move Fake Out works, how the move Protect works, how the move Tailwind works. Right? That's all stuff you're gonna have to learn. But really, just ask for help. Right? I think there's a lot of great people in the VGC community that absolutely do not mind helping new players out. Reach out, join it. Like I said, I love promoting Discord servers as a place to learn VGC, because that's where you can just you make your team, you drop a poke paste of the team, and say, what do I need to change, and then you'll get a list of 6 different comments about, okay, well, you should change your spread to this, or you should change your move to this. So
yeah, and it's also like if you share like team ideas around like people around like Discord servers, like those people are looking for help just as much as you are. So
right,
like odds are if you drop something in there, it's like, this is I haven't tried out. Like there's people. Pokemon is an information exchange. It is an information economy. like you get to where you get to be a decent player by how much information you have about the game, and there's so much different kinds of outlets of information. We have so many like you said, like this is the best time of any time to get into VGC because of how many resources are available and just how many like different methods there are to help you get better at games. So like definitely just like I said, just go right in, like just no training wheels, just you gotta fall off the bike a couple times, it's okay. Might get a couple scrapes on your knees, but that's cool. You're learning. You learn from experience, and just jumping right in is probably the best thing you can do.
That's cool. If you feel like a scrub, like I'll tell you straight up, I was a scrub for a long time. I'm still a scrub.
We're still bad at this game.
We're still bad at this game. That's kind of the great thing about VGC is that there's always room for improvement. VGC is a fantastic game purely because you can always improve your skills. You can always, manage your risks better. You can always just like review your plays as if, okay, well, what should I have done in this situation? What should I have done in this situation? Was this a misplay? Was that a misplay? There's always room for improvement. So yeah.
And not to plug our own stuff a bunch, but this Pokemon 101 segment is definitely intended to help newer players out. So we'll be coming out with little segments of this just to sort of go over some various different parts of competitive Pokemon battling, and sort of hope to get our 2 cents into this information sort of like extravaganza that we're having here. So yeah. Is that all we got for Pokemon 101?
I believe that's all we have for Pokemon 101. Really fresh and new to VDC. That's where you go. You watch tournament VODs. You check out tons of there's a ton of great resources like VGC stats, like Trainer Towers we mentioned. Those are great places to just really like dive into it and figure out why things work the way they do and how you can use that to your advantage.
All right. Well, I guess to sort of round out the podcast here, we have a couple little, I guess, general news topics we'd like to discuss. I guess sort of a breaking news thing for VGC is that we currently have the, I don't know how to pronounce the city. Is it Lille? Like, it's in France. A French special event is going on right now, which is basically the equivalent of a regional championship. Unfortunately, we don't have direct coverage in the form of a stream, as to my knowledge, but we do have results that are coming in, and we'll probably be seeing a bunch of stuff from that event in the next couple of days, whether that be team statistics or just people talking about it. So make sure you keep up with Twitter and stuff like that. Definitely going to be a lot of information coming out about that event.
So we don't have the top cut teams yet, right?
We do not have top cut teams, but we have standings.
Okay.
Yeah. So that special event is going on right now. As for general competitive Pokemon topics, I know you had this huge singles tournament that's going on right now, courtesy of is it just Blunder that's doing it, or is it like a Smogon like sponsored thing?
So the purpose of the tournament, as I understand it, was to host a tournament actually separate from Smogon. So this is a tournament run by Blunder. There are a few sponsors, if you will.
Yeah,
I know Shady Penguin has a lot of dealings with it. Yeah, Shady Penguin.
It says here Shady Penguin, False Swipe Gaming, the guy who does How Good Is the Blank Pokemon Actually, like the competitive history videos. Great YouTube channel, by the way. Go check out.
False Swipe
check out. False Swipe Gaming is good. Yeah, shout out to False Swipe Gaming. That's my boy. Okay, and then we also have Duncan Knee Deep. He does a lot of competitive Pokemon stuff and Numb Nexus. So they're apparently, I guess, sponsors, I guess you could say, for this tournament. Anyways,
I think they contributed to the prize pool.
Yeah. All right. So tell them what it's all about, buddy.
So I think it was single elimination, correct?
Yes, it is.
We determined that.
Yes.
It is a single elimination tournament, and I do believe, if I am not mistaken, this is in fact the biggest Pokemon tournament in competitive Pokemon history. We have been playing competitive Pokemon since Red and Blue, and this is by far the biggest tournament of all time. I think there are. Let's see. I'll give you the exact number of how many attendees. There are 1,538
entrants into this
Players.
tournament. Yeah,
Entrants into this
I dropped the link for the people in the chat if you guys want to check it out. It's called the Grand Poke Tour, and yeah, it's a huge tournament. It is a huge, massive tournament. We have over 1,500 players. Yeah, definitely one of the biggest Pokemon tournaments I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of any other events or any other tournaments rather that have even reached 1,000. I know that apparently official Smogon Tour has done that a couple times. There was actually one VGC tournament. I believe it was the Nugget Bridge Invitational, if I remember correctly, or it was some Nugget Bridge tournament that once did break 1,000 entrants.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. It was a while ago, though.
That was indeed a while ago. I think that was 2013. I want to say
something like that. It's definitely been a while.
But absolutely, this is if not the biggest, one of the biggest Pokemon tournaments of all time.
And it is a singles tournament.
It's a single elimination tournament.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about VGC and stuff, but this is in fact a Smogon singles, or at least a tournament that will be following very Smogon-esque singles rules. So, yeah, it'll definitely be a whole different beast than what we've been talking about.
Right. I believe it will take a few months to even play.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's scheduled to run until I think January.
Yeah, it seems like top eight's going to start like after the middle of December. So
I think this would be like a top 64 or something. I don't even know how big this top cut would be.
I mean, it is single elim, so it'll be like a bracket.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. I got it. What else do we got for Pokemon news? We got Incineroar and Smash. The VGC mascot has now joined
the Super Smash Brothers roster. Yeah, that's for our general Pokemon news. I mean, I don't want to get too much into Smash talk because this is a Pokemon podcast. If you guys want to read a little bit about my thoughts about Incineroar and Super Smash Brothers, go ahead and check out the GameHaus.com.
Pokemon.
I'm the disclaimer at the bottom of the commercials. Anyways, so yeah, Incineroar's in Super Smash Brothers. We finally have another Pokemon rep joining the Smash Bros. Roster. Would be kind of weird if we didn't, considering a new Pokemon has joined the Smash Bros. Roster every single generation. Or every single installment of Smash has had a new Pokemon, so, would be weird if we didn't have a Pokemon. But Incineroar joins Decidueye as one of the only other Pokemon from Generation 7 to be playable in a fighting game. LOL, sorry, Primarina. But yeah, I'm excited. I've been seeing a lot of mixed reactions to Incineroar. He definitely looks like a unique character. But if you've learned anything from competitive Pokemon, it looks like he's only going to be good in doubles. So
that is my thought. If he ends up being only good in double Smash,
I would not be surprised.
I would not be surprised. That would be pure fate, if nothing else.
Yeah, it would just be the most amazing coincidence. Something I thought was pretty interesting about competitive Pokemon news in general is the fact that Latias is potentially coming back to Diamond, Pearl, Platinum OU. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, yes, people still play older metagame. People have a fondness for retro style metagames, and Latias is a Pokemon that's been around in the recent metagames as it's been dropping in tier lists because power creep and all that other stuff and changes in the meta. But Latias back in the day, back
when Dragons were really good.
Yeah, back when Dragons and the move Draco Meteor was actually a relevant. Dragons were pretty good, and Latias, after 10 years of being in Ubers in Diamond Pearl Platinum, is currently being suspect tested in the OU tier. I know Joey PokeMD had just put out a recent video of him on the suspect test ladder. We all know how big of a fan Joey is of the Lati twins. So I thought it was cool that this piece of history from competitive Pokemon is it's sort of bringing back some retro news is coming back into the current Pokemon environment.
This is an interesting one because Diamond Pearl OU is classically considered to be one of the best meta games of all time. Like that could be said to be like the golden era of competitive singles. And to this day, it's by far the most commonly played old gen metagame, even including stuff like like Gen 6, if we want to call that old gen.
Yeah.
Gen 4 OU, there are absolutely some diehard fans. That's where a lot of like Smogon people started playing competitive Pokemon. In fact, that's when I started playing competitive Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like Gen 4 is considered to be a pretty like classic, beloved metagame, and so the fact that it is changing enough to where they're actually considering making metagame changes, it's especially interesting because Latias was originally Uber in Gen 4. Then it dropped down to OU. Then what happened in the metagame is all the teams basically became what we call drag mag, which is 3 dragons and 3 steels. 3 dragons to tear it up, and then 3 steels to prevent opposing dragons from tearing it up.
Yeah.
So, in the era of drag mag, decided to ban Latias to Ubers again. And now after 10 years of sitting in Ubers, Latias is being suspect tested to go back down to OU. I'm not sure that's ever happened in Smogon history, as far as I know. At least as far as in the transitions between new games, things like that have happened before, where a Pokemon that isn't broken before it gets a new move from the tutor in the new games ultimately becomes broken because it got that new move. Salamence was actually that way in Gen 4, where it didn't used to have Outrage. It got Outrage and then got banned to Ubers.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff has happened before, but the fact that it got banned to Ubers, and obviously there's no new Gen 4 games that have come out since then. Now it's eventually being suspect tested back down is definitely very new for Pokemon history. So
yeah, definitely a neat little development. And I guess the last bit of news that we should Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. So if you guys have been keeping up with Pokemon Let's Go, it's obviously, for anybody who's seen any gameplay of it, it's not meant to be competitive at all. This is a game meant for casual fans that is meant to sort of tie in Pokemon Go, the mobile game, and sort of integrate that into the main series.
Into the main series, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of changes coming to this game, or at least like a lot of things that'll be absent from this game to make it more, sort of based on its roots back in Gen 1. Like, for example, one of the biggest things is we don't have abilities in this game. And
I don't believe we have held items either, I want to say.
Do we not have held items?
I believe we have. No,
held items, right?
No, I think we have no abilities and at least in game we have no held items.
Well, how do you
because you don't hold the Mega Stone. It's now an option in the bottom left corner of the screen. So
okay.
Not only do you have that, but you can also choose between, for example, Mega Charizard obviously has the option of X or Y. So now you can choose between X or Y.
Yeah. Basically, TLDR, this game is not meant to be competitive in any sense. But
with moves like Batty Bat and Glitzy Glow, Sizzly Slide.
Yeah, a lot of these ridiculous sounding names for moves, but they're mainly just for Pikachu and Eevee to have moves so that Pikachu and Eevee don't lose to Brock. That's pretty much it. That's like, but you get all these like.
Basically, the whole point of that segment was, don't buy Let's Go. Don't do it.
Okay. Let me rephrase that. If you're not a competitive player, Let's Go might not be your. Basically, what I wanted to touch on besides that is that they're integrating this feature into the game that allows you to talk to an NPC that allows you to basically choose the nature of Pokemon that you're going to be able to run into. And like you said, I think before the podcast, you said this is mainly a way to alleviate the existence of Synchronize.
I think Synchronize, that's my current theory.
Because Synchronize, for those of you who don't know, is an ability that allows you to basically project the nature of the Pokemon that has Synchronize onto a wild Pokemon. So, for example, if you have a Ralts that's timid, you have a higher chance of encountering a Pokemon. Well, the Pokemon you encounter has a higher chance of having a timid nature, which can be really helpful for breeding and whatnot. Which is weird that they would put this in this game. It seems weird. We don't have abilities. However, it seems weird that they put this like mechanic that would have actually been helpful in the main series games because like having a designated party member synchronize is kind of this would be so much more convenient. But it just seems weird that they put this in Let's Go, and I'm hoping that this is a feature that gets carried over because this is the more features that makes it better for competitive players in game. Like I'm all for it. But yeah, it's a neat mechanic. And it's definitely going to be helpful for, competitive battlers. I'm actually like kind of anxious to talk about this once Let's Go comes out. If there actually is going to be a competitive scene for it, and it would just be like I'm sort of envisioning a metagame that'll RBY except without all the dumb mechanics of Gen 1. But yeah, I think it's definitely a cool mechanic, and I think this is like sort of a sign that Pokemon sort of still cares about their competitive scene, maybe a little bit.
I thought it was interesting that they would introduce that mechanic into a game that they've clearly like openly stated and clearly shown that it was not meant to be a super competitive game. So whether this is a sign of what's to come in Gen 8 or whether this is just a new, just a new mechanic that they add for fun, I don't know. But it could definitely at least mean good things. I think if this is a sign that they're finally hearing our cries of the fact that we don't want to spend 12 hours breeding or soft resetting for a team to go to a VGC event, right? I think if that's what this is a sign of, I'm hoping that's what it is. Then that probably means good things for Gen 8. At least as far as just the act of playing the game competitively on the actual game itself.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. I personally, because I am a competitive player by heart, I'm not particularly interested in Let's Go. It does look like a fun game. It makes me sad that it's not that competitive of a game because I love how it looks at least. And like I love Gen 1. I love how the game looks, and I think it could have been a competitive game, even if they kept all the other stuff and just left Gen 1 Pokemon in there and just made it a Kanto-only game. I think it could have been a completely fine competitive game. But I don't know. Let's Go is definitely... they mentioned when they were conceptualizing Let's Go, or when they were talking about the direction they wanted to go with it, Nintendo's been doing this thing where they want to take all their series in new directions, right? Mario Odyssey was definitely a bit of a shift in direction for the Mario franchise. Breath of the Wild, same thing for Zelda. So Let's Go seems to be their Pokemon version of that. So I'm hoping it's a good game. Like I said, I'm always hopeful for the future of Pokemon. So I hope it's a good game. I hope, frankly, that I'm wrong about what I expect it to be. But yeah.
I just thought this was a really cool thing they decided to add, and I'll personally be picking up, obviously Pokemon fanboy over here. I will be getting the Pokeball Plus accessory. No shame.
Yes, sir.
No shame. I want to try. I'm getting that Mew in my game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll be definitely anxious to talk about Let's Go when it comes out, and if it actually ends up being competitive in any way, because
we'll cover it on the podcast.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely talk about it. But yeah, I think that's all we got for today, guys. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for listening. If you want to follow us anywhere else, you have our Twitter handles right below us at Arik Bartletti for me.
And at Aegis Cave for me.
And if you guys want more Pokemon stuff, we have mentioned a ton of different resources here, but you can also head on over to thegamehaus.com/Pokemon for Pokemon esports coverage and all that other good stuff. But yeah, it's been a good podcast. You don't really have an outro, I guess. But
yeah, I didn't think that far ahead.
It's like we don't really have an outro. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for joining us.
Thank you all for joining. This has been fun to do, and we will have another one of these up. Are we doing these bi-weekly? Is that correct? We'll let you know.
We'll let you know.
We'll keep you updated.
definitely keep you guys posted. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening, for joining. This has been the PokeHaus podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.
If you liked that, hit the subscribe button for more interviews and other great sports and esports content. Make sure to also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter to stay up to date on all the news from your favorite sports and esports players and teams. From our house to yours.